the importance of men's group and men being vulnerable, because in this world, if men talk about their feelings, if they talk about their emotions, they're looked down upon. Men take their pain and push it down to make sure nobody else thinks of them as weak.
The reality of it is when you are the leader of the household, you've got to lead the household.
By example.
Yes, 100%.
Hey guys, Cabalka here. Really excited to be back with Burn the Ships, my best buddy, one of my great mentors, Mr. Garrett Townsend. We have one heck of an episode for you guys today. Obviously, if you have watched many of our podcasts before, we're both members of Red Rocks Church here in Denver. They are a great church for anybody of any level of faith, whether you don't know God, whether you are a quote unquote Bible thumper, walk with Jesus every single day. It doesn't matter. They take everybody broken and as they are, and their slogan is to make heaven more crowded. So we absolutely love Red Rocks. Main pastor there, Pastor Shawn, is just an incredible guy, unafraid to share his story. First time he was ever in church, he had a bag of Coke in his pocket, and comes from a really tough background, but is just a good man. Even if you don't believe in a God at all, their messages are they're good for people to hear. They inspire, empower, lift up, even if you don't walk with Jesus and you're just lost. You want positivity in your life, because at the end of the day, that's really what this channel is about, is helping people grow and growth only, right? So I do believe that being present in that church or watching their YouTube videos, they have an amazing technical team and they put out incredible videos online. So if you're not in the Denver area, just search up Red Rocks Church on YouTube. You'll find just droves of positive messages there to help uplift you. So this past Friday, Garrett and I had an opportunity to attend their first ever men's conference. So this video is definitely more focused towards men, but obviously great things can be pulled out of it for women as well. And we went together. We had a phenomenal night, and we're just gonna kind of break down the message that Shawn had, how it can be brought back into everyday life, so on and so forth. So before we get too far, GT, how are you doing, my brother?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I'm just always happy to be here with you. You know, part of the stuff that we'll talk about that we heard and learned and whatnot is the importance of men's groups and all that. And I think men really being vulnerable with each other and opening up. Hence why we started this. And one of the reasons why I think that we're sitting here one day and this whole thing came to fruition is we would come over to shoot video and you would get in some conversation with me and we would talk life and whatnot. And next thing you know, we're like, man, that should be on a podcast.
I remember exactly where we were when we solidified that. We went and got tacos at Torchy's Tacos over in Greenwood Village, and we were just like, man, you and I just sometimes have such great deep conversations and both believe in the same things, and that's what started it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I'm hoping that with this, I hope that we can do it justice, because I don't know about you, man, but that night, Shawn, if you ever watch our podcast, buddy, you absolutely killed it. Mark
Montoya from Factory X. He's a legendary MMA coach, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, born and raised in Denver, and he shared his testimonial, and Shawn kind of had a sit-down Q&A with him, and it was outstanding.
It was just, dude, I left there going, man, I hope when we do our episode about it, I just hope we can show it some justice, right? So we're going to do our best today. You know, this is what it's all about, right? 2 dudes, 3 dudes, 4 dudes, opening up, talking about life, talking about the fight. And whether you guys know it or not, I mean, we're all in a fight. Whether it's a spiritual fight, financial fight, emotional fight, whether it's the 6 inches between your ears or just something deep down in here. I mean, we are always in a fight. And I don't think a lot of people see it that way. Yeah, we're going to dive into this thing, man, because that's what the
theme of the night? Yeah.
That's what the theme of the night was. It was like right here. Stay in the fight. And so that's where we're going to go today. Chad, what would you like to start off with, man? Where we're going to go with this?
So let's start with Shawn's piece, and then we'll talk a little bit about Coach Montoya's piece. What Shawn really was pushing was what you said, the importance of men's group and men being vulnerable, because in this world, if men talk about their feelings, if they talk about their emotions, they're looked down upon. Men take their pain and push it down to make sure nobody else thinks of them as weak or thinks of them any lesser of a man, right? So that was his big push. He talked a little bit about how suicide rates among men is so much higher for the 20 to 50-year-old age bracket than it is for women. And that's because women, when they talk to their friends, they open up. Their friends don't berate them or look down on them. And over time, men, we take our pain and we hide it from the world. So his big thing was, we got to stop that. We got to normalize men being able to talk to each other when they're going through crap, because everybody's going to go through crap, right?
So I can't stuff anymore? Is that what you're saying? I can't stuff it all down anymore?
You stuff some donuts in,
but you know what's so crazy though, is like, when you think about it, I mean, here's what's nuts about it to me. It's like, there's no middle ground. It's like, either men are into, I think today's society, they're too soft and they're whining and crying about everything. Or you got the men like us that, you know, try to be strong men, and we don't want to burden anybody. I think Shawn used that word a lot. We don't want to burden anybody with our problems, so we shove it all in a hole, right? And I just think that it's sad that there's got to create that middle ground, right? Nobody wants to cry baby that's just, you know, his feelings are always out there and he's crying about everything. And quite honestly, those people are soft to me, and I struggle with those guys, right? But there's got to be that middle ground that, you know, you can be a strong, tough, confident leader of a man and have friends and people in your life that are close enough to you that when you are struggling with things, you can open up and open up completely.
Especially if you're getting to the point where you believe the world is better off without you in it, which gives me goosebumps and breaks my heart that there's many men out there that believe that the world would be a better place without them. You gotta talk to somebody. And especially for me, that person would probably be you. You become a big brother to me, a confidant. And if I was to the place where I'm just like, I don't think living's worth living anymore, you are somebody who I know that I could come talk to. And if I were to cross that line and try to take my own life, you would be so freaking pissed at me.
I'm smiling at you right now to keep from getting emotional.
That you would be so heartbroken that or vice versa. Like, if it ever came to a head that GT took his life one day, I would be so mad at myself that I didn't make it feel like it was all right for GT to come and talk to me about any problem, anything we're struggling with. And so many men believe that the pain of opening up and talking to their buddies and the fear of talking to them because their buddies might make them feel inferior or lesser, that is bigger than suicide. That is crazy to me, but the numbers show it. That so many men believe that this world is better off without them than talking to their friends. And that's heartbreaking.
That's crazy to me. And I think there's two problems with that. One is either the ego, where you feel like they're going to view you as soft, right? So that's one problem. And or problem two is, again, I don't want to burden people. Like, if you don't have friends that are close enough in your life that you can't open up, be vulnerable, and really truly open up with the full-on truth, then you need to get some new friends.
Absolutely.
And I'm sitting here right now, and if you're watching this and you don't have those friends, I'm telling you, you got two dudes right here on this show.
Absolutely.
I will bring you in my circle any day. I don't care who you are, because it breaks my heart to think that there's people out there that don't have those friends. And I think that you and I are lucky enough, and I feel the same way about you, man. I know that if I needed to open up, I'm fortunate. I mean, I've got
such an epic circle.
I've got Mike and Shawn and Scott and you. And there's other dudes out there that, you know, I grew up with that we're distant now, but I know that I have those guys as well.
Yeah, I can run down my list. Obviously, I got Chris and Dane, my business partners, Kyle Kuby, who was on here before, absolutely. Brandon Tennant, Ray Woods. I have a long list of dear friends who I believe would be pissed off at me and themselves if it got to that point and I didn't talk to them.
Or even if they just heard you were going through a struggle and didn't reach out, right? It doesn't even have to go to that point. Like, you know, if I know that if somebody, Mike, bumped into you somewhere and you were like, yeah, man, Garrett's really struggling, Mike would be pissed. That if he didn't know that, right? So going back to the groups and stuff, the importance of that, and I think where the church wants to go is, I think that I'm going to interview a couple of groups. I've been invited into a couple. I know Sean Nealon's starting one. It's Something Warriors that I think would probably be pretty cool, because I think he's a pretty damn good leader and a very godly man, which is awesome. I know he's starting one. I know that Jordan from the church wanted me to come and visit his group. And so I'm going to try to find us a group to get into that I think that we can make a huge impact on. But if not, we're going to start our own.
So what GT's talking about is the small men's groups at church. So what Red Rocks is really pushing to do is to get these small groups put together, especially for guys who maybe just moved here or are going through some crap or trying to leave a bad life. You know, somebody's in a gang or just surrounded by people who aren't doing the right thing. I think that that's the point of these small men's groups who meet once or twice a month, delve into the word some, but also are unjudgmental men who are in the same room together going through the same kind of fight. The two big points that Shawn had was, number one, game plan got to start with God. And number two is know who's in your circle or know who's on your team.
Yeah, you got to have a game plan,
and it's got to start with God. And number two is to know who's on your team.
And because the whole theme was a fight, it was who's in your corner.
Yeah,
right?
Who's in your corner.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of us out there, whether it's business, whether it's maybe with the family or whatnot, you know, we always kind of have things somewhat figured out as the leader of the family. You know, we're going to have our game plan put together. We kind of know who's in the corner, but do we have it put together when the fight gets real? Right? Like, you know, I mean, I'll be completely transparent. For me, this last 2 years have been the hardest financial 2 years of my entire career, probably of my life. I think I made more money my first year in the business than I did last year.
Back in the 1890s, you made more money?
Back where we were dipping the pin and doing that. But no, I mean, you know, and the thing is, like, when you look at a fight, right? Or you look at a struggle, you know, for me personally, I've been fortunate enough to build very good relationships in my life throughout my life, which has taken care of my professional career, because I love people, I take good care of people, I mean well, I'm going to do what's best for them, and that's just how I'm wired.
And you're wildly genuine. People feel that second they talk to you, that you're some sleazy used car salesman.
Yeah, I'm not some sales guy, I'm a relationship guy, and that's benefited me very well throughout my career. But when you look at my whole life, I've always tied my worth, which I know a lot of men do, we tie our worth to our career and how we're doing in our career. And when you tie that to that and that's not good, well, then all the stuff, all the fight, you know, the demons start creeping up in your head, right? And, you know, then your self-worth, then your confidence goes to crap, then everything just kind of starts falling by the side, right? And so you've got to have those people in your life that you can talk to that'll help pull you out of that stuff. Because I've literally lived my life being able to financially take care of everybody in my life, whether it was my mom and dad, whether it was friends or whatever. I mean, I was always the one that had it or whatever. And so when you don't have that and you can't do that, I mean, there's a big piece of your self-worth that kind of disappears, you know, with the money, right? And it's sad that we tie so much to that.
Always have throughout human history.
Yeah, but, you know, again, that was my fight, and thank God I've got really good, solid friends in my life that are like, no, dude, you need to check yourself, because we love you for you. You know, we love Garrett because he loves everybody and his energy, and even when he's going through this crap, he still has this energy, right? But you have those people that can help just pull you out of that hole. Whereas I couldn't imagine going through, you know, some of the stuff. And I mean, I have my wife, which is, she's literally my biggest fan. And I know a lot of guys that don't even have that. Right? I mean, you know, they don't. And so I feel lucky to have that. I feel lucky to have you. I feel lucky to have my other dudes in my life that when the shit hits the fan and things get really, really tough, you got people in your life that'll at least help with that mental state to pull you out of that.
So you got to have that circle.
Yeah.
So if you're in the Denver metro area and you don't feel like you have that circle, I don't care if you're a follower of God or not. They would.
You will be.
You will be. They would welcome you with open arms to a men's group, and they would smile ear to ear for you to show up. Or if you don't want to do a men's group, just sit in the back row of the church and just absorb the positive messages, and I promise you're going to leave feeling better. I'll keep it 100 with you. I have struggled many times in my life with my faith. It's been an up and down battle for me, and for various reasons. But just being, I can tell you, Friday night after I left that, I felt so much positive energy and so much just, it was amazing, and it definitely brought me back some. So I'm not saying I'm not a follower of God. I'm 100% a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. I have had many moments, and some in the last 6 months, that have been really tough for me. Really tough. But having the support of Red Rocks and your amazing wife and my wife, the last couple of months has been just diving face first into God. It's helped me a lot. So yeah, having those people around you that are positive influences, it helps a ton. I don't know why I went on that tangent, but
yeah, I mean,
you know,
but we're just going to go on
it's
tangents
something that
anyway.
I haven't fully outright, you know, said really to anybody except for Kylie, that I've had such ebb and flow, you know, mountain valley relationship with God lately. And Friday 100% helped, and I know getting in a small group would help a lot too.
Or just being in a room of 1,400 dudes,
dude,
that are all just on fire.
And like here, Shawn said it when he first got up on stage, hearing 1,400 men sing. Where else do you, like, you don't get to hear that anymore. No. Sure, you can go to a Broncos game and hear 70,000 people cheer, but hearing 1,400 men in unison singing praises to God, it's very, very powerful.
I get goosebumps just thinking about it. I wish I could just like literally go back.
God, I wish we could have Shawn on here for this episode, because I know it would be so much fun. And he's just a wise, gracious,
he's going to be on this, by the way.
One day. Hey. Shawn, I actually have a bone to pick with you, because we train at the same gym, and I know you've seen me training at that gym, and you said you go to Choose Fitness, so they don't really clang and bang weight in there. Come on, man. I feel like I'm a pretty strong guy. Don't be completely dogging on Choose. But one of the things he brought up is he was in the gym, and this was a really good example of, I thought he put this together really well, how men don't want to show weakness. He was doing decline bench, and for anybody who knows weightlifting, that's where your feet are up and you're doing a barbell bench, so you do have that bar right there. And one of his great friends and somebody who helped him start the church, Chad Brugman, was right there, and he was doing curls. And he saw Chad, and he was like, you know what, I feel good. I'm gonna put some more weight on there. And he got to like 3 or 4 reps, and he wanted to bang out a couple of more with no spot. And when you're decline benching, if you can't get the weight up, the weight's gonna fall right on your throat, and you're gonna guillotine yourself essentially. And he was so prideful in that moment that even though his best buddy was right there, he didn't ask for help.
He was just hoping he didn't see it.
He was hoping he didn't see it, and some other high school kid came and pulled it off of him when he couldn't get it up, and he was going to choke himself to death. But that's so eloquently showcased how men are in real life, right? Yeah. So take the bench away, say he's dead broke and has creditors calling him all the time. Instead of talking to his buddy about it, he's suffering in silence to the point where all of his self-worth, like you said, is put financially. So he has such a big view of that on his life. He would rather crumble and die, possibly take his own life, or turn to alcohol or drugs to get through it, than to say, GT, dude, I'm dying right now, man. I have no money. And where you would come to me and say, hey, dude, what can you do to get out of this? I don't think you'd write me a check. I mean, if it was between me taking my own life and doing that, you probably would. But you would give me actionable game plan on, look, you're good at this, do this. In the meantime, quit sulking on your couch. You have a vehicle, go Uber, go do something to pay the bills, while you single day, you'd set up a game plan with me, and you would hold me so accountable to push video, knock doors, hold open houses, whatever I got to do to get the real estate game.
There's always something, right?
But you would be there. And there's so many men that would rather just drown than talk to somebody. Yeah.
And the be there most of the time, most of the time, guys, the be there is just reminding that person of who they are, right? If it was you talking to me, it would be, Garrett, you're a top 1% originator. You have been for over a decade. Like, you've helped over 4,000 people buy homes.
4,000?
Oh yeah, in my 24 years. Oh, that's not just origination, that's purchases.
Bro.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying though? But
that's amazing.
But when you look at that, that's 24 years. That's still a lot, right? But when you look at that, sometimes it's just reminding somebody like, dude, you're a badass. Like, get out of your own head. Like, because we all know that that's usually what it is, right? It's right here, and it's this, and it's getting in your own head. And like you said, I can't take care of everybody, and I'm tying all my self-worth to how successful I am. And when you do that, I think sometimes it can be a positive, but I think a lot of times it's a negative. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of finding those people in your life that'll just pull you out of it and just be like, look, dude, I don't know if they need to slap you around or whatever they need to do, but it's just, So we put together a plan, get out of your head, remember who you are, let's go, right? Yeah. Like, let's go. Who cares what the market's doing? If there's one thing that I've learned is the accountability of, and I think that's where the shifted for me recently is, dude, I don't care what the market's doing. At the end of the day, people are buying houses. People got to have a place to live, and everybody doesn't want to rent. And so when you can lend in all 50 states and you look at the amount of purchases that are going on around the country, what's my excuse?
Right? You got one.
Go get it.
There's people making millions of dollars this year.
But the reality is, we all have our different fights. We all are in a fight. I don't care what anybody says. Every one of us are in some sort of a fight. They're just all probably a little different. And whatever that fight is, the whole purpose of this is to encourage you to get out and open up.
Stay in the fight. Don't quit the fight.
Yeah,
stay in
and
it.
don't quit.
Realize what the fight is and attack it.
There is no quit in anybody that's watching this podcast. They better not anyway.
No.
But yeah, man, you just got to have that game plan. You got to know who's in your corner, and you got to be able to trust the people in your corner.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the game plan, because we kind of jumped to point 2. And I think the bigger point of Shawn's message, point 2 is important, but point 1, your game plan's got to start with God.
Yeah.
That's the one that hit me between the eyes. I've been in the fight of my life the last 6 months. It has nothing to do with financial. And I've been trying to do it by myself, completely by myself. I've had you to talk to some, but
you've had me to talk to a lot.
Yes.
Whether you chose to or not.
Right. Whether I've taken advantage of it, again, goes back to, look, guys, we're not perfect. We're preaching this stuff to you, but have talked to Garrett a lot about the struggles I've gone through. But there's times where I've been down and out and haven't. And I should have.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have made my fight easier having you in my corner. But the game plan's got to start with God thing, that hit me between the eyes like a nuclear bomb. And it really made me take some self-reflection of, is God at the center of your game plan for the fight you're going through right now? And I left there saying no, he hasn't been. I've been trying to scale Everest without taking any equipment with me. That's essentially what it is. When you're going through the hardest fights in your life, whether it's a cancer diagnosis, a death, a divorce, anything like that, like the big stuff. Financial stuff comes and goes.
Right.
I'm talking the big stuff.
Yeah, the real stuff.
If you try to do that stuff by yourself, you might as well be trying to summit Everest in flip-flops, because you might be able to do it. And if you can, you're a stronger man than me. But if you're attacking Everest, he's the parka, he is the crampons, he's the ice axe, he's the air tank.
Yep.
Genuinely. All the other stuff, I do believe that you're my Sherpa. You're my climbing partner. Mm-hmm. You're the guy who's got my belay to make sure I get up there.
Yeah.
But if I don't have my gear on, I'm gonna freeze to death before I even get out of the can-do ice falls.
Yeah.
So it was eye-opening for me, and Kylie and I have recommitted to going to church every Sunday, and I think she's been on fire lately. I think she's literally watched like 200, without exaggerating, videos of Red Rock sermons in the last 30 days. And it shows. It really does. She's been a positive light in the household because of that. So whatever your game plan is, if it doesn't start with number 1, then...
And what's the best way? So you and I talked about it the other day. I've never read the Bible, like read the Bible. And I know all these people that are like, yeah, man, I read the whole thing cover to cover. And I'm like, wow, like I've just never done that. So I recently decided that I was going to start doing that. I read, I don't know, it's like 2 or 3 chapters a night. And I'm going from Old Testament to New. But, it's sort of interesting when you start thinking, is it coincidence or not? And I'll give you an example. I dive into the Bible, it's been maybe 2 weeks now, maybe 3 weeks, and things have started picking up a little bit in business, but just in like the last week, just kind of like turning it over to God and just being like, man, look, you got this, you're in control. He's the one that's in control, right? But it's just weird how I start diving into that. I start watching the Red Rocks when I'm doing cardio in the morning again, because it puts me in a good place, right? And so I started doing the 2, and then all of a sudden, just in like the last week, man, I'm getting phone calls from agents I don't even know, wanting to know about our CRA program. Leads are up 300% from where they were 3 weeks ago.
Let's go.
Just like all of a sudden, it's like you just feel this momentum coming back, and you go, man, there's something to be said for this, right? Like, is it coincidence? I'm sure if you asked a lot of non-believers, they'd be like, oh yeah, man, it's just coincidence. The market's picking up, whatever.
The market's not picking up.
But the reality of it is truly believe that me diving deeper into my relationship with him, and there's no better way than to read his word, right? And get into his word. It's making a difference, man. So what does that do for a believer? All of a sudden you're like, man, maybe I should read like 4 or 5 chapters a night. Maybe I should read in the morning and read at night. You're getting kind of motivated and pumped up by it. I don't want to tie that to business, but kind of is what it is, man. I know a lot of it's my effort and everything else that I've put in over the last 6 months of just grind. But it's crazy that all of a sudden the phone's starting to ring 3-4 times more than it was.
Absolutely not coincidence.
Hey,
so we really even did it 1% justice what Shawn was talking about. We tried. Shawn Johnson, you're a legend. You really, really are. You have brought a church that makes everybody feel welcome in a time when people don't feel welcome at church.
Yeah.
And I started going to Red Rocks 10, 11 years ago, whenever Kylie's sister Carissa, or maybe Kylie, suggested we go there for a Christmas Eve service because their music was amazing. That was a sell, and we've been loving it ever since. So Shawn, thank you for changing the world, because you really, really are.
And big shout out to Doug too, man. I mean, you're number 2. I mean, there's a lot of times, I don't know about you, but man, I go back and forth. Is Doug better or is Shawn better? Is Doug better or is Shawn better? Because
so
man,
many good preachers.
You know, Shawn will just knock one out of the park, and I'm like, man, Shawn's got the edge on Doug. And then next week Doug will go up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like Doug is so good.
They have a couple others that run through.
And James, I mean, James is great. Solid. I just so we're not sitting here doing a commercial for Red Rocks, but we kind of are, because you know what? I think that church has changed both of our lives.
I will happily say this is a commercial for Red Rocks.
Yeah, it's changed our lives. And the cool thing is YouTube, they have their own app that you can watch their stuff. So it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, if you're just struggling like with that, man, I just haven't found a church I like, which is where I was for a long time until I found Red Rocks. You know, now it's like, man, I can't wait for Sunday or Saturday night. You know, I'm like, man, I just can't wait to see what they're going to talk about.
Well, I want to talk about what Coach Montoya talked about.
Let's jump on that one.
So again, 1,400 men in an auditorium, and easily the biggest BA out of all of them was Coach Montoya. I don't care who else is sitting out there. There may have been Navy SEALs, Army Rangers. They would be up there too. But I know for a fact Coach Montoya is up there. So just a little bit of his background. Again, Denver native, grew up really close to where we were in Lakewood. He's coached multiple UFC champions. He's coached world jiu-jitsu champions. He's an Muay Thai expert. I don't know how many BJJ black belts he has, because there's so many different disciplines. But this is a guy who unassumedly, because he has a little bit of an intimidating look to him, but what is he, maybe a $170, $175? You wouldn't think it, but
6'1" or something like that, maybe a $180.
He would wreck 99.99999% of the planet in a fight.
Yeah.
And so he gets up there and he gives his testimony about how he found God. And one of the big things there's 2 points that I really remember, and then we'll talk about them. Number 1 was his mother was the big pusher of faith in his house. His dad wasn't really around, but mom really pushed faith.
Which is the case, which they showed, and I'm sure that's what you were about to say.
Yep, that's exactly.
And I didn't mean to steal it out of your mouth, but what was the percentage? I don't even know if they gave a percentage.
They didn't give a percentage, but one of the poignant things they said is the number 3 biggest attended day at church is Mother's Day, behind Easter and Christmas. One of the lowest of the entire year is Father's Day, because fathers would rather be golfing, they'd rather be barbecuing, they'd rather be at the park, going on a hike, mountain biking, whatever. They don't pick to go to church Sunday morning, but mothers, on Mother's Day, say, I want to get the family, I want to go to church and go to brunch.
Yeah.
Men need to be the leaders of their household in all aspects, and we have dropped the ball across the board spiritually.
I think part of that is because I feel like a lot of men, we get, again, so tied up in the earning aspect, the bigger things, that we kind of just pass those things on to mom. But the reality of it is, man, you know as well as I know, when you are the leader of the household, you've got to lead the household.
By example.
Yes, 100%. When your kids or your little dudes, especially your dudes, are looking at dad, they want dad to be the one that says, no, we're getting up, getting dressed, we're going to church. The cool thing is at Red Rocks, you don't have to dress up. I mean, you can go in t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, which is awesome.
They'll take you in.
I grew up Southern Baptist where you had to get your little button up and you can
come in a pair of joggers and a t-shirt. You can come in a suit. They
care. Just come worship.
Yep.
But how important it is that dads need to change. I mean, we talked about it in one of our previous episodes. I think it was maybe the manlyhood one or something like that. Just how absent dads are in households in general. But the ones that are absent in the household, I think are dropping the ball on taking the charge when it comes to Jesus and God and the religion piece of it.
Absolutely.
And
the second piece that Coach Montoya mentioned was something he tells to his fighters. He says, I don't need you to be brave for 15 minutes. That's how long a UFC fight is. 3 5-minute rounds. Championships are 5-minute rounds. But I don't need you to be brave for 15 minutes. I need you to be brave for 5 seconds. That's all you need. Because once the time it takes you to leave the edge of the cage to engage. That's all he needs you to be brave for. And then the rest of it's going to click. So be brave for 5 seconds. And I think what he was bringing that back to the church was when we were leaving, they had like 30 some odd small group leaders out in the lobby. And they said to all these men, hey, go be brave for 5 seconds. Just shake somebody's hand and say, tell me about your small group.
Yeah. And because once you're talking to the guy, then you're like, oh yeah, this guy's cool, whatever, and everything's going to just start clicking. But it's just that 5 seconds that it takes you to walk out that door to go approach that person. And I mean, I don't know, for guys like you and me that are in sales that, are used to hear no or whatever, I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit different for us.
We're built different though.
Yeah, but a lot of guys out there that aren't. I mean, they're just not. If you're not a salesperson that's used to having to get uncomfortable and do those things, that is extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
And that 5 seconds of bravery can be correlated to so many different things. 5 seconds to walk into church. 5 seconds to go say hi to that pretty girl at a restaurant. 5 seconds to fill out that application to go to that college. Whatever. 5 seconds
to choose to do the right thing,
or
even though the right thing may be a harder consequence or whatever. But that 5 seconds to choose to do the right thing over the wrong thing.
Yep. 5 seconds to walk into Factory X Gym and say, hey, I want to give this a shot and go learn jiu-jitsu. I got to give a shout out real quick to my second born, Landon. So we have struggled a long time with team sports in Landon. He's on the spectrum, so he gets really overwhelmed with being the center of the spotlight in a team-based environment, right? He's tried basketball, football, and soccer. Didn't really take any of those. Loves golf. Very good at golf. He's extraordinarily smart. And he is athletic. He's very athletic. So I kind of spurned on by Coach Montoya. I had already decided it, but seeing him talk really reinforced it. Was I really want to get Landon to get into jiu-jitsu, because I think that with his intelligence and his athletic ability, being in a one-on-one sport like that would be awesome. Take him to his first jiu-jitsu class on Monday. He is terrified, right? They have him start with another coach and just doing a couple things by himself. But when he actually starts grappling with kids, I could see it in his face how scared he was. But my little man stuck out the entire thing. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. He stuck out the whole class. And as we were leaving, we were like, is this what you want to do? And he's like, yeah, can I go back tomorrow night? So I had him back there last night. One of the coaches came up to me and she said, I have never seen a kid get it so quick. They had him working on a Kimura, which is a pretty high level submission. It's where you kind of twist a guy's arm. And she was like, this typically takes kids 2 or 3 months, and he's already knocked it out like 10 times. And it was one of the proudest daddy moments I ever had. But he showed that 5 seconds of bravery and committed to the class, and now he's all in. We bought him his gi. He's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And just to add to that, and it's probably going to make some of my striker buddies upset. I did MMA for 10 years on and off with Clarence Thatch at 3D Martial Arts. Rest in peace, brother. You're one of the greatest dudes I've ever known. It's always the guys that were a little more cerebral and a little smarter are always the ones that are a little better in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. They are. You got your guys that are just ballers, right? They could just go out and and me, I was always a good striker, right? But I struggled on the ground. I'm sitting here saying it's probably because I wasn't as smart as half the other guys out there, right? But yeah, it's always like those super cerebral, almost engineering kind of minded guys that are really good in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I guarantee you that kid's
he was beaming ear to ear when I was sitting over on the side, when I could see him get something, like the first time he got that submission, he'd look at daddy for his approval. And he was just ear to ear grinning. He was high-fiving everybody. It was special. It was really, really, really special. So take that 5 minutes to do something you're uncomfortable with. Walk into church, join a small group. It'll take 5 seconds of bravery to just click on YouTube and watch 5 minutes of a Red Rocks thing, because you're battling that demon inside of you that's saying, you don't need that, it's fake. God's not real. He doesn't care about you.
All right.
Everybody has those things in here, but you say, nope, this is going to be good for me, and just typing in redrocks.com, boom, that's 5 seconds right there. And it takes bravery too.
It does. And when you go back to that goes on in your head that I think you're referring to, you guys got to know that that's all Satan, right? It is. God doesn't put those thoughts. God does not put negative thoughts in your brain. He doesn't.
Doesn't matter what the negative thought is.
All that crap that goes on in there and all that negativity and that fight that we call it, man, it's all coming from the other side.
I'm not good enough. I can't do it. He's better than me. I'm not good looking enough to talk to her. I haven't closed enough deals. I can't list $1 million home.
All that.
I'm too fat. I'm too weak to go to the gym. No. Do you know who the people who I just look at the gym and am blown away by? It's not all due respect to the bodybuilders and the strongmen. Yes, I love those guys. I follow Brian Shaw. I follow Chris Bumstead as an idol of mine. Those guys are amazing. But the people that are really the people who I look at when I'm training and I'm like, good for you. If there's an obese guy on the step mill, there's somebody in a wheelchair doing curls, if there's a 75-year-old grandma in there busting her butt, those are the people that inspire me.
100%.
So stop listening to the devil saying that you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not fast enough.
You got to get in better shape before you go to the gym. Like there's all that, just that stuff that goes into the brain that is just like, no. And I promise you guys, not putting that in your head. But no, guys, hopefully we didn't just absolutely murder last Friday. It was awesome. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was life-changing for me. It opened my eyes up a lot to a lot of different things. But the one thing that I want to leave this with myself personally is, if you watch this and you start doing a self-evaluation of, man, what does my corner look like? And it's not what you want it to be, and you feel like Chad or I could be good people in your corner, dude, reach out. I mean, our information is all over the place.
Leave a comment, shoot us a DM.
DM, that's what we're here for. That's the reason we did this thing, is because we want to make a difference.
We're not cashing paychecks because of this.
Yeah.
That's not what this was for. This was to share a little bit. Honestly, it was a little selfish to just be around each other and talk about positive things because it rubs off on us. But also it was to be there for you guys and hopefully share some positive things of what we've gone through in our life. And take that 5 seconds and be courageous in whatever fight you're fighting this week. And if we can help, let us know.
Yeah. And hey, Jesus loves you, and so do we. See ya.